Lawyers Kim Jacobsen and Kathy Flaherty met while working for the same company. Their bond of friendship has helped each other and others who live and work with disabilities.
Do you remember how we first met? Because I know I do. And that's when we were working together. And a supervisor kind of came down pretty hard on me my third day at the job. And you were one of the people who told me, don't worry about her. It's not you, it's her.
It's so funny because I have no recollection of that conversation, but I do believe it happened. I specifically remember at that time, we were both lawyers. You had already been admitted, I think, to the Massachusetts and maybe even New York bars, but you were trying to get admitted to the Connecticut bar and you were having a hard time because they asked about mental illness and you had explained that you have a diagnosis of bipolar. And I remember thinking, wow, this girl is really gutsy. She is right away telling me this up front and without apologies, talking about mental illness, something I didn't know really much about.
One of my favorite moments about that part of the experience was when they finally decided to admit me, remembering showing up for my admission hearing and everybody from the office came. And the people from the bar examining committee saying to me, are those people here for you? And it was great to be able to say yes. And I know that you've had an experience with an acquired disability. And I was really intrigued how you came out to the whole world versus how you came out navigating within your workspace. Do you want to talk about that a little bit?
I was diagnosed with Parkinson's disease about a year ago, a little over a year ago now. As a precursor to that, I was diagnosed with anxiety and depression. We're lawyers, so we research and we learn things. And there's lots of Facebook groups on Parkinson's that I started joining to learn what this was about. And what I realized was that the people on there tended to be a little older than me because I'm relatively young to be diagnosed. And they had a lot of trouble sort of getting all the information in an easy form. But I also realized that people were looking for a personal connection to the disease. And I guess I tend to be a little bit of an oversharer and an attention grabber anyway. And so I put together a series of videos on Parkinson's. I put those videos out before I actually told my employer and most of my friends that I had Parkinson's. I told a few close friends, including you, Kathy. And then you sort of pushed me over the edge to tell my employer.
I have a way of doing that sometimes.
Yeah, and you put a very tempting apple out there because you asked me to become involved with a panel in front of the Bar Association talking about being a lawyer with a disability. And I'm like, ooh, I would really love to do that, but I probably should tell my management. What I realized, and I wonder if you feel similarly, is that having things out there that you might be sort of embarrassed about or other people might perceive as embarrassing, if you could change the narrative and take that conversation over and put it out there, I think there's less stigma involved in the situation and it helps others who are in similar situations.
I think that's always been part of why I've been open about my mental health diagnosis. For anybody with a disability, your disability isn't all of who you are, it's part of who you are. I just look forward to seeing what we do in the next chapter.
I feel exactly the same way. Love you, Kath.
Love you too.
Kathy Flaherty in Newington and Kim Jacobsen in West Hartford, Connecticut. Produced locally by Connecticut Public Radio. See and hear more stories at ctpublic.org/StoryCorps-CT.
The StoryCorps Mobile Tour is made possible by the Corporation for Public Broadcasting, a private corporation funded by the American people.